to you.
Thanks, Carl. I'm going to go to Mr. Haitham here. Haitham, we've recently had MSX implement this ESG reporting as a mandatory requirement from the next year. Do you think investors use ESG factors in their decision making? And what was the rationale for MSX to introduce the ESG reporting for the listed companies in Oman?
First of all, I will say that being human being, that we do have that care of environment, care of our societies, and governance has started for a very long time. It is there. It is where we build the next phase of seeing companies investing into our communities as well. That's where the S side as well, and raising the diversity, equality between the employees. Then it goes to the next level of environment and whether we care or not on the environment. For us as MSX, we have 110 companies listed in the exchange. And during the last 3 years where we had our roadshows visiting global asset managers, one of the hot topics was ESG. Do you have disclosures of ESG? The last 2 IPOs as well that hit the market, it was mandatory to cover the ESGs to enroll the investors from outside this region to come to Oman. So I can say that whether we believe or not on ESG, it is something really affects. It's one of the filters that hits investors. And for us, we want to tick the box and make sure that most of the requirement of our investors are complied with. So we work closely with GCC to create a unified ESG matrix. We don't want to bring something new dedicated for us. We want something harmonized that will allow companies in the region using the same standards. And we have announced that. We didn't create our own. We used the GCC unified matrix. Then we created our guidelines to help the companies. We are beyond the other GCC markets where they started their ESG journey before us, and to make sure that we catch up. So we thought the first year, 2024, will be a voluntary disclosure. Then 2025 will be a mandatory disclosures. But it's good to mention that along with the IPOs that happened in the last 2 years, they are all, they disclosed their ESG practices in the prospectus. We do have companies in Oman who disclose annually, but we just launched our ESG platform and msx.om, our website, our portal, and we combined ESG disclosures with the financial disclosures as well. So they are all in the same platform. And from 2024 onward, we will see more companies getting engaged, using you to make sure that they have the right disclosures.
So Avinash, do you see that there is a connection between ESG and financial performance? And how do you think adopting ESG would affect a company's performance?
I'm audible basically. So let me start you from the practical point of view. ESG is an important part, and Oman leaders have identified that it is essential to have ESG as a part of a strategy, otherwise they will fall behind. Let me tell you, we are also money company, Jindal Shadid, and we have basically formed here a ESG. You must have had green steel. So what is green steel basically? It's a part of ESG wherein you are manufacturing your steel using hydrogen, and the carbon emission, CO2, will go beyond 30% what you produce as of now. Suppose in the worldwide, I can tell you steel is the most carbon producing industry. In the worldwide, it is 2.32 carbon emitted per ton of steel. And Jindal Shadid is emitting 0.78 using DRI with natural gas. So now the thing is, if we can produce so much, Oman is going ahead with this. And when we go to green steel, it will reduce further 30%. Then you say, what is the use of ESG? Why will we invest so much? And what is the forward looking for ESG? Let me tell you, in the Europe 2030, the vision of uh, it should be net zero emission. Now you will say net zero emissions. So as a finance guy, you will say, what is the benefit? Let me tell you, premium for green steel is $200 per ton. So even if you are producing by 25, 27 green steel, you will get additional $200 premium on steel, which is a much, much big aspect. And we have started investing in that. Now, where is this green steel being used? It will be used in the manufacturing of cars, white goods, and all those. So will people be paying premium on getting this ESG compliant or zero emission steel? Yes, as of now, we have done some MOUs and we are moving fast ahead with the world. So basically in our document and all, we've already started investing in billions. And we see ESG as one of the aspects which is required to be followed by the worldwide. And Europeans, as you know, they have norms by 2030, it has to be zero emission. So if you are not moving along with the world by maybe next 5 to 10 years, your product will become redundant, or you may say less premium or something, you will be lacking behind. So be with the ESG things in your particular industry. In steel, anyway, we are following the same. But in your industry, what are the ESG norms? What are going to happen? How to report this? How to make it culturally viable? This has to be taken care. So it's environment, you have to take care, social, corporate governance, all those have to be earmarked. And we have seen these benefits even recently started in our industry. So there is immense benefit in this. And ESG compliant, I think Oman leaders have already identified that, and they have started in the thinking in this line. Already, I think Muscat Stock Exchange had issued the guidelines for ESG compliance, so we are well ahead. And those who fall behind will be the last, but if you start thinking in ESG line and start reporting this in, I think by 25, it will be compulsory for some industries also. So we have to start reporting ESG. There's a batch, functional and non-functional, how to make reporting or how to make it multi, because ESG rules are very different for different countries. So there are some complexities, but still we start thinking on those lines, and if we see the benefit, we will be much ahead of the time, and we will reap the benefit of this ESG compliant industry or ESG compliant company, whatever. And already we have started this, being one of the examples of our industry.
Great, great. Carl,
Let me elaborate on the value of adapting ESG practice as well. It's not just a reporting, it's a way of creating values. When we talk about the social, or let's say when we go to the environment values and social values, now we are moving from CSR to CSV, so the corporate social values that really create values to the companies. So they find a niche market using the environment needs to create value to the companies. This is one. Second thing is there will be incentives from government toward net zero, and those incentives will hit the companies if they hit their targets in terms of carbon emissions and toward net zero. So that will be beneficial to the companies in terms of reliefs, in terms of waivers of fees, and so on. And one of the most important things that happens in stock markets, not stock markets, securities markets mainly, is the carbon credits that can be issued for companies who are hitting their targets, and those carbon credits will be created for those companies where they can sell it on those voluntary carbon credit markets. So itself creates a value to to companies who are really adapting those standards and making sure that they benefit. It's not just a matter of reporting, it's a matter of creating that value.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, guys. One of the things, of course, that will affect corporate performance is over a period of time, the carbon credit market will get more evolved, and companies that are positive on the carbon credit side will be able to sell those carbon credits in terms of IREX, things like that, and do that. Carl, what would your advice be to a company in Oman that is looking to start its sustainability journey? And what do you think would be the challenges that they'd have to overcome to go through that?
Okay, just following up what the two either side of me said, very much their focus was on the kind of the positives and the opportunities. Jindal Steel saying how they can kind of come to new markets, increase the pricing. When you look at, say, the climate change sustainability, it's very much there's risks on one side and there's opportunities, yeah? And when you look at this, and again, it comes down to this double materiality, etc. The first thing you need to do as you start this journey, the first thing is understand your stakeholders. Who actually cares about what you do? So we're talking about shareholders. They actually just want to make more money. So whatever you do, whether you take the opportunities, reduce the risk, as long as you make more money, you tick their box. When you go to the investors, if you're borrowing dollars from overseas, you've got a lot of funds in the US and in Europe who are willing to lend lower cost funding to those companies who tick the green box, and we call that sustainable financing, green financing. You've got your employees, as I say, the younger generation are going to work for companies where they do tick the E, S, and G boxes, and if you don't, they don't want to work for you. On the next side, we've got the customers and your suppliers. As Jindal mentioned here, their customers are actually willing to pay more for green steel. So we could tick in all those boxes, yeah? And the last one, not to ignore, is regulators. You know, you may be here, you may be a bank. The CBO, they don't want a bank to fail because they've done something crazy and because of climate change, the lending book disappears. So they will have regulations. You could be into the power industry, the water industry, where the kind of regulator is saying you need to start hitting these targets. You know, we've seen in Oman in the last few years, a couple of power stations disappeared because in Oman, with the 2040 vision and the idea to get net zero, the government, the regulator realized some of the older power stations, they're just too inefficient, too dirty. They don't need all that electricity, so they've been scaled out and it's going towards the new ones, yeah? So the first stage, you say, is really the stakeholder analysis, working out who your stakeholders are, what do they care about. The next piece comes to the materiality analysis, and then working from there. And again, coming from my risk management side, I'll give you a couple of examples. Nobody is kind of insulated from this. It's going to hit you all, whether it's the physical side, as I say, lending to houses in kind of storm areas. Take a power station. A power station may be built next to the sea. And again, because of, you know, with climate change, rising oceans, etc., maybe it's susceptible to flooding. So you need to build kind of bigger perimeter walls to protect you. On the other side, on the power station, you've got the regulators saying, actually, if you don't clean things up, you're going to be finished, yeah? But typically there it means being clean for the rest of your concession period, yeah? If you look at, say, I see the, you know, Europcar there, you think, what's it got to do with them, yeah? You know, they have a big fleet of cars, and Europcar make the money from two sources. One is from renting cars. The other one is because they buy so many cars, they get such a discount that they can sell them at a profit. There's going to be some point when people don't want to buy petrol cars. So Europcar is sat with this kind of dilemma now. When do they switch over from petrol to electric? Because if they wait too late, when they try and sell their cars in 3 or 5 years' time, there'll be no buyers. So there's a lot of things in your business. You need to identify what these risks are and start manage them now before it's too late, yeah? Because if you don't, somebody else, your competitors, if they're a bit sharper, they're going to do this and you're going to be at a disadvantage.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. That was good. Haitham, my question is, this is a first step that you've started with only the GRI standards. Do we expect to see that MSX will start involving other frameworks of reporting in terms of, you know, the SASB reporting and things like that? And how can companies ensure that they stay ahead of the game on this?
So we are working closely with the government in terms of adopting the ESG. So maybe we are the first, let's say, runners in Oman into this field where we issued our ESG guidelines. And mentioned that it is part of GCC, Unified ESG Matrix. So we are not creating something extra. We don't want to create cost. We wanted an easy transition. And we understand there are some other reporting standards, GRI, and the Sustainability Financial Accounting Board, and the other, as well the task force of the climate financial effects, that all will hit the companies in their reporting. So we don't want to create extra load. We believe that all the SSE, which is sustainable of stock exchanges, so we are part of the UN SSE initiatives. What we want is to make sure that whatever has been issued currently is adopted in Oman. We don't want to create extra burden on the companies. There are some cultural issues related to diversity and inclusion, for example, on the S part that doesn't fit the Islamic culture. Those the only things that I believe will be a burden on companies to adopt. The remaining will be the same. It will be a clear, smooth, following the same standard that is there in the GCC. And the one in GCC has almost the same matrix that has been issued by the SSE initiative. So there will be no extra on this. But what we want to do is to help the companies on the E side, because calculation of emission will have different standards, different way of getting the numbers. So what we are working with is recently we have heard about Oman Sustainability Center. When that comes into picture, there will be a standard way of calculating the emissions and all the environment-related standards. And what they want to do is through direct source of information, they will have their own systems, and they will be ready as well to evaluate and attest the carbon credits issued in Oman. So there will be internationally recognized center, and that's where we want to head. So there will be no extra. We don't want to create an extra. We want just to adapt whatever is there, be harmonized with the international practices, and use the right source of information to help the companies disclose. And it's good to mention that because we, in Muscat Stock Exchange, we are not just listing the publicly listed companies. We do have the closed joint stock companies listed with us. Over 300 companies are listed with us. So even those can utilize the framework. OIA themselves, they have 160 companies, and they are with us in this journey. So we expect OIA companies as well to use the same platform, and then it will be up to the government if they want those information to be public. One of the main targets of us having a platform is the benchmarking, because when we have 460 companies disclosing their information, then we will have a good source of benchmarking. And creating the targets for the next year, and then even for the government for their net zero journey, they can use this information as a big data to put benchmarks, incentivize the companies that really create the value, and believe it or not, if you're not creating the value, then it will be an expensive thing. That if you then adapt the ESG and really hit your benchmark, because then when we reach the 2050 net zero, if you are not complying, then you will pay for the carbon credits you have to purchase to offset whatever cost you created to the environment.
Thank you. So Avinash, you mentioned that you guys have already started off on your sustainability journey. Can you give me a couple of examples of areas that you actually made changes to be more sustainable? And what were some specific challenges that you faced while doing this, and how did you deal with them?
Let me tell you, Jinder Shadid has been the pioneer basically in leading, articulating and advocating the ESG compliant or sustainability or growth. Recently, we have started some carbon capturing in our steel plant. Basically, it's with the US company, And we have started capturing the carbon from the fuel gas, whatever we have is one of the project. And that gas will be again be utilized for, if we take out from the fuel gas carbon, that will be utilized for emission of algae project, or this will be beneficial for the environment as a whole. Other projects what we have started, instead of using the natural gas or carbon emission or CO2, we'll be using hydrogen. Now again, that is a very preliminary stage and it has been approved. And instead of gas, suppose whatever is there, if you start using hydrogen, so that will be net zero emission by 2030. So that is also on the cards and it has already been started. Now, let me tell you, all the banks or all the institutions are very fond of this ESG and they have allotted a particular fund for this project. So even if you start with this project, you will be getting the funding very easily because green or something you can ESG compliant is a must for all the banks and all the lenders. Some portion has to be evaluated for that and something they will have to lend. You will get the concessional interest rate or not, that is a secondary aspect, but for sure you will have the project funding. Now to evaluate and make the ESG in your annual reports or what are its impacts or what are its regulation, that is a bit confusing as of now. So there is no unified ESG regulations or growth or sustainability regulations which is all along the world. There are various rules and regulations and then there are multiple channels which hidden into. Now there is ESG, again if you say how to get the impact on the financial is a bit tricky because it is all future oriented. Right now you will have the cost, but going forward it will yield the benefits. So two things are there. First is how the ESG will be reported in the financial, since both financial and non-financial things needs to be reported here in your annual reports, as well as the benefits which you have and what are the carbon credits, net zero, CO2 emission, all these things needs to be reported and those things will be reflected in your carbon credits and going forward in the lending also. Suppose you start a project with some ESG compliant or some project where it is in the green or where something, then you will see the banks have started approaching you to get this funded. This is a fact, we have already seen this. And since banks are also, all the European banks, all the worldwide banks have some quota towards it, so they will approach you and ESG right now, which looks to you as a cost, maybe after 3-4 years down the line or maybe 5 to 10 years, will have great impact on your business. And you have to be compliant with it. You can't be just sitting on idle and then be redundant or obsolete after 4 to 5 years. And you have to be thinkative on that basically. So we have already started working on that and we have already started seeing the results also. It's too early. It's because it's in the project stage. So my advice to you all is in your area or in your field, see whatever ESG compliance or sustainability or growth, whatever you can do it. And even I can tell you recently we have done the sustainability and this in our company and we got it certified by a third party that we are way below the carbon emission. Suppose the world standard is 2.32, we are on the basis of 0.78 CO2 per tons of steel, which is way below the world standard. And going forward in the green steel, it will be 0.03, 0.04, which is way forward. It is in 2030 or 2040's vision. And we have already started aligning to those visions, and those things have already started reflecting in our...
Just to, most of that is a little technical for our guys, so, and I'm mindful of the time. I just want to put it out there. One of the things that was a major concern at COP28 was the fact that is the talent availability in this particular field available or growing at the same rate as the market is growing? And the clear answer was no.
No.
While sustainability requirements and all are growing at the rate of about 25%, new talent and skilling, upskilling is only happening at 9%. So my question as an open forum to all three of you is, what do you think you, as an individual or your company or as an authority, can and will do to make sure that we bridge the gap, at least if not close it?
I'll take that first. And he said, what am I going to do? I'll actually throw it out to everybody there. It's going to be, what are you going to do? As I say, the skills to actually do ESG, it's not there. I've been kind of looking at it for the last year or so, and every week the amount of stuff I learn is just amazing, yeah? I say it's kind of, if you're going to produce some kind of ESG report, etc., you need to know all the GRI, TCFD and that. And I say anybody who tries to do it now, it was like asking somebody to produce a set of financial statements when they've never read IFRS. You can use common sense, but it'll be useless. It won't be certified, yeah? And a lot of people I see now, we're all dabbling, and that's what it is. And I speak with my colleagues in Spain who have been doing it for 20 years. And it's enlightening every time I speak with them. Every time I think there's one answer, they give me 5. And it's my God. And it makes me almost scared just how much I don't know. You know, 1 hour ago, you learned about ChatGPT and you got told, actually, if you don't start using this when you get back, in 3 or 4 years' time, you're not going to have jobs as accountants because everybody who uses it is going to take over. I would say, in addition to your ChatGPT, start studying about ESG. The MSX have come out with their guidelines, so if you're an SEOG company, you've got to start reporting kind of by this time next year. Who do you think it's going to fall on? It's going to fall on finance.
Yeah.
You know, you guys, you already produced the MAS. As soon as the CEO wants more information, it's straight to finance. You'll build a spreadsheet, you'll collect the data. And
Just
why
like
is it-
everything else, Carl, anything that nobody else can do ends up getting done by finance, right?
And why does it come to you? Because finance individuals, we're used to collecting data from various places. We're used to auditing it, make sure it's credible, yeah? You know, you may have a property valuation. You don't go and do the property valuation, but you go to a property company, you'll get the valuation, you'll look at the inputs, and you're knowledgeable enough to say, that's reasonable. I've just started doing an ESG assignment for a power company. I've got no idea,
Right.
but we go to the commercial department and they show me they've got all these statistics that they've been given to the regulator for the last 5 years.
Thanks, Carl.
So all that data's there, it's there. So I'd just say, get yourself experience because in one way or other, it's going to fall on your shoulders.
Yeah. Haitham? Again, mindful of time, please.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to keep looking at the watch. and
So
scare you guys.
the importance of ESG is a topic that for the last 2.5 years that I keep hearing in all conferences, in all my roadshows. I have been there in UK, US, Dubai, meeting asset managers, and it's one of the major topics.
Yeah.
And in the exchange, we understand this is a totally new thing. And as you mentioned, it will lay on the finance side to disclose and
Yep.
prepare everything. But we believe it's very important. It's a hype topic, and we are in that uptrend curve. So there will be always a shortage. In the exchange, we have created, instead of having an ESG section, we called it sustainable investment.
Yes,
It used to
absolutely.
be
That's what-
ESG, but we have linked sustainable investment that has a section of ESG and a section of IR, the investor relations. Because we believe disclosures are part of the investor relations duties. So therefore, we kept both of those topics in one place. Trying to push more workshops, trying to create those educational links, but there will be shortage as whatever happens in the world, whenever new technologies happen, AI, blockchain, it's all with the same journey that we have to take together.
Thank you. Avinash, about a minute or two.
Basically, when I say ESG, there is the talent availability is not there as of now. There are much more things are required. Even we see the dearth of the talent is required, the regulations, the things, the outcomes, everything needs to be reported, and there are no definitive guidelines as such, wherein you measure the input and output within this annual report, and everything may be quantified. So it's a complex situation as of now. So as the time evolves, we'll again have more context to it, more in terms of financials to it once the time involves and we know the things.
Thank you. You know, I wanted to frame these questions around the fact every single entity wherever I've gone, the finance guy, especially the CFO and the financial controller, have asked me one question: why should I do it? Will it save me money? It's not mandatory. Should I do it? The answer is here. MSX has already taken a first step. Whether it's mandatory or not, ESG is a paradigm shift, and it's going to become a systemic change which all of us need to adapt to. If it's not the regulatory authorities, it's going to be your clients, your stakeholders, future investors, banks. All of these are going to require you to be in conformity to the ESG standards. Just to give you an example, I was talking to a gentleman from BlackRock. We all know BlackRock almost owns most of the world, right? I asked them, and they said, if we have an investment proposal from a company that has not even started on their ESG journey, that's where the paper goes. If you at least made an attempt, we may consider an investment. But we are looking now more intently on those companies that have sustainability as an agenda. This is a fantastic opportunity for all the chartered accountants here who don't think they should be in sustainability. I think that's your future. That's where some of the jobs that are going to get taken away from you will be replaced if you are an expert on sustainability, and it's all about sustainability. ESG is just a part of sustainability. So think about that, and cost savings, as my friend Avinash said, will come. You will get financial benefits from it at some point of time. But you need to broaden your thinking and come to a point where you realize that it's not voluntary anymore. It is very important that we all think about it as an existential crisis and work towards making these things happen and have a good ESG culture, sustainability culture within the company. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being so patient and staying here so late.